All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka ToeTagginTambo, back for a special edition this week for the 3-game Thanksgiving slate. Got my guys as usual, Hoop, Title. I'm back in the booth with them. Happy to be back. We'll get this show rolling. See a nice jersey over there. We'll bring in Hoopster here in a second, but want to say first off, thank you to everybody for watching. Smash the like on the way in. Subscribe to the channel. Happy early Thanksgiving. We got some promo stuff we'll talk about. We've got some giveaways on this show. We're giving away a monthly membership. We also are giving away from our guy, Mark F., who won the Millie Maker Monday night. He's giving away a 333 ticket, so we'll get to all that stuff throughout the show. But Hoop, you did it, man. You got the jersey. Dak is in the building, and it's a Dak slate. So what's going on?
Yeah, held true to my word. I went out and did some shopping like the day after the big win. I don't know, it was not this past week, the week before. Couldn't find it. Had to place the order. Placed the order. And then, man, the jersey comes in and it still has the magnet thing on there, you know, that's pinned onto the jersey. So I had to take it. I think I bought it at like a rally house. Had to take it to a local rally house. I go in there and it's all like local Detroit sports stuff. And the guy's like, "Why the hell do you have a Dak Prescott jersey?" I was like, "Long story, but you know, I had to purchase one. Got the magnet thing taken off. We're all good." So Dak thought it was a fitting time to bust it out. Said if he made me, $250,000, I'd buy a jersey. It actually got pretty close this year. 3 of the biggest wins for me personally this season have included Dak. So it's time to make the purchase. And, you know, it's a good time to reveal it. He's on this slate in a good spot. We'll talk about that game and all the other games. Tambo, welcome back. Glad to have you back in the saddle. You know, myself and Title, you know, we got through it, but we needed our leader back, and you're here with us today.
Here to take over the talking points. You mentioned 250,000. I mean, this ticket that our guy Mark is giving away to the 333 has 200K up top. So maybe Dak can win somebody else that money. We'll get to that. I've got some King of the Beach giveaways this week. I'm going to be giving away $600 prizes. The first 2 will be announced on Twitter within the next 24 hours. Then Mayo and myself will get together for the remaining 400 to talk about giving that up. Title, bring you in, man. No Dak jersey for you or I, right? We don't got that, but we'll talk about Dak on this slate. How you doing, my man? What's going on?
Yeah, doing well. No jersey over here. Got to get 250 sacks, and then I'll grab a jersey, whoever that may be. But very, very excited for this slate. Thanksgiving is just an awesome. I talked a little with Rio yesterday. Thanksgiving for football, Christmas for NBA. You're with friends, you're with family, eating good food. So much money up top, and I like it even more because it's a little too cold in Wisco for me. I'll be back next month, so when everyone else is grinding and stuff with their family, I'll be in front of that laptop making some late swaps, doing any updates I need to do, grinding every single game. And I think there's a huge edge on slates like these because people are sipping early. People might be at the game like Hoop's going to be at and have a million other things to do rather than check their daily fantasy teams, which I do agree. You should probably not be doing that as your number one priority. However, I will myself, and 3-game slate. I love how they're staggered. Very excited for this one as always.
Yeah, we're going to go game by game as we always do. But before we do that, we'll talk about a few other things. Definitely bring up some of the strategy points. I already see the questions in chat around how many or too many can you stack? What if you go this route? We'll talk about some of the game theory leverage places that I think you can go on this slate. Got a lot of our content up on the site already, and want to let everybody know up front because we got a new promo. Bringing it in just for Thanksgiving week and for the Black Friday sale. It's before. We're not going to wait till Friday to get all these Black Friday deals. Get it out of the way early. Code Turkey20. Go to shipitnation.com. You get $20 off your first month. That'll drop it down to $49. I'm going to pop this over real quick and share this just so you guys can see when you get to the page here. Let's go back. If I can get this changed. Man, struggling. Here we go. Got to get it blown up. But just so you guys see, the monthly is $69. The code Turkey20 drops you down to $49. We did have popular demand. We talked about this a while ago, so we had to stick to our guns on one side of it, but we had enough people ask us about weekly where they said, oh, I only want to check it out for Thanksgiving week, or what about when golf comes back and I just want it for the Masters or something along those lines, certain MMA events or whatever it might be. So we brought it back. There's no codes for it. You get no Discord with it. I think you'd be crazy right now to not use code Turkey20 and just pay the $49 to get in the access where you can actually get the Discord and get your first month for $49. Make your decisions from there. But Hoop, anything you want to add when it comes to this? I mean, we thought about this long and hard. We spent months before we would even go to this. We had the trial for a little bit to let people try it out, but it turns out that enough people just, either can't afford the overall or just want a way to get into the back end somehow, but still no Discord when it comes to
at some point, just got to listen to the people. I mean, I know for you and I personally, we were not against it, but we wanted people to be either in with us or out.
Yeah.
And if you're in on a more long-term basis. And that's why we made a very affordable. That's why we made a very affordable industry leading affordability when it comes to the monthly package, the 6-month package, and the annual package. But enough people have asked, for a weekly. I mean, I understand everyone's financial situation is different. A lot of people, not saying that they don't have money, but a lot of people just budget things week to week opposed to month to month. So we wanted to give people an opportunity to get in for the weekly. Obviously, right now is a really good time to get in if you do want to try it out and try the weekly, because it's going to get you all the Thanksgiving Day information. It's going to get you the Friday standalone game, which is the Dolphins and the Jets. They're going to be big prize pools for that. And then the full NFL slate on Saturday and the showdown stuff as well. Now, the reason, here's a good example of why, you would potentially want to just go for the monthly and do the $49 at $20 off right now is the Discord. And Discord, a lot of good things are happening. Our guy, Mark F, right, won the Millie, and people are like, well, you guys didn't really talk about that build. Well, he's in the Discord always talking about stuff. Like, he's one of our guys in there. The Discord community is where it's at. A lot of like-minded individuals in there helping each other out, free rolls in the Discord, people handing out money, a lot of really good things happen in the Discord. So again, I'm with you. I think you'd be crazy not to take advantage of the $20 off. Try the monthly for $49 over the $24 a week. But again, we went back and forth on this before we launched. A lot of conversations about this. After we've launched, a lot of conversations about it. And again, at some point, you just have to listen to the people. A lot of people handle their finances a little bit differently. They like the week-to-week type thing. We're going to offer it. The big caveat, though, is no Discord included in that weekly.
Yeah, and Rob, our guy, Lay the House, just got to meet him down in Miami. Awesome dude. Him and his other half, as he likes to say, his better half maybe. But he said Discord content has won me. This guy's been winning in every sport, and even the community-led Discord channel. Some people don't know this. Like, our site shows the major sports that we cover officially, and that's just a guarantee that you'll get those to the highest level. But like Rob says, in tennis, college basketball, college football, our guy Smarty's in there, Pickett, other guys and girls in different channels, soccer channels, places like anything you want is in there. And just this is in our Discord too, Hoop. This is our guy that's giving away the 333 ticket today on Monday night. Mark F had a single bullet. He won the Millie in the Mega, but he also won the 100K in the 222 with this bullet. And right behind him, this is what's in our Discord. Mark F wins the Millie. D-Dry, who you guys saw on this very channel, the interview with him, is basically the first in to congratulate him. So it's two Millie makers from the community back to back. And Mark says, had to wake up my wife to tell her. Yeah, might be worth whatever the backlash is of waking your wife up at, I guess it would have been 1 a.m. in the morning almost, because I think this is set on my time zone, so Eastern time, but still 1 a.m. It's a good idea to wake her up, and for him to do that with a $1 million win. Title, anything else you want to add, man, before we move on? Just wanted to see, go through all this stuff and break it down before we get into the slate.
Yeah, I mean, so sick for Mark. Life-changing money, constantly being won in the Discord. And, I mean, there's not only NFL tonight, huge NBA slate, 14 games, always the day before. Thanksgiving's massive, big prize pools. NHL, another huge slate there. In the NHL streets, we have you covered, projections for all the sports. And we're trying to teach you a process. We have education videos for NFL, for NBA. We'll be coming for other sports as well. We don't want just 1v1s, 2v2s. Like, that's not what we're trying to use the Discord for. Saw someone won yesterday, and he thanked Parabai, which is a member who just joined recently. He's been with us for a while. He came over, but he's like, he thanked Parabai for just the dialogue he gave throughout the day, breaking down certain plays and stuff like that. As Hoop always says, surround yourself with like-minded individuals in all aspects of life. You want to get big in the gym, you want to do something, hang out with dudes that are big in the gym. You want to be a good DFS player, hang out with good DFS players. I mean, Hoop's laughing, all that. I'm trying to spell it out as simple as possible. you're trying to do something, be around someone that's better than you and try and get better. That's what I try and pride myself on. And it's facts. I mean, you can see what people in Discord are doing.
And I'm blocking you heavy on this one. And I love Scary Creations, always in here supporting the channel, always watching us. I understand where you're coming from, Scary, but this is one thing we hit on and why we bit. Like, I love the gym example the title just gave. Like, people got in for the week or for the trial. They hammered y'all core. Like, that is literally the opposite of what we're about. The reason we have core reports and player pools and all that is because we've been in this industry a long time. We know that people want some sort of baseline to go off of, but there's no way to repeat that. Like, if you're just waiting for Hoop to win every week, I know it feels like he does, but I'm just saying it's just not true. He wins a lot, but if you were just following him every week and then you don't know, like, he enters maybe more lineups than you end up getting to, or he has a different variation of that. It's like Title just said with the gym. You go to the gym for a week and you try and get big. Like, yes, you can get in 5 great workouts. You might eat right for 5 days. Go look in the mirror or weigh yourself from Monday to that Friday. Probably not a lot changed. You got to really get in the gym. You have to ingrain yourself in it. It's a lifestyle. That's what it's all about. We don't have to go on for days. Just to let you know, though, that is not the way to take us on. That's why we didn't want to do the weekly for so long in the beginning. We said, like, get in the actual gym, give it a shot, and try it out. And that's the chat's doing the speaking for us. The Discord is the place to be. Hoop, we'll spend more time on it later. I'm sure I'll bring the code back up. But enough of that. The chat wants to know, I think, first off, some of your 3-game slate strategy. Because you mentioned it earlier, I think Title touched on it too. You got staggered games. You know, people are late swapping after every game. There's, setting it up for onslaughts, all these different angles. What are just some of the things that come to the top of your mind getting into it before we go game by game throughout each actual scenario?
Yeah, just a couple things. I'll get into that. I don't want to continue to harp on the other thing, but the cores are just part of the overall process. Like, that's just part of the overall process. We don't want anyone signing up at our site and saying, okay, just jamming these, whatever happens, happens. Like, yeah, you want to do that on certain nights where you don't have a lot going on. Yeah, for sure. But over the long term, like, we want to make you better players. The core should just be part of the overall process. Yeah, like Jason said, I mean, just lays it out perfectly.
Yeah, this is what it's all about right here. Just trying to have fun. Everyone wants to hang. I've got tons of good friends that don't get anything about DFS, didn't understand why I was in Miami, but they're like, cool, good for you, but you can't actually relate. The best part about going down to something like King of the Beach is getting to meet and be with around other people that understand it and get it, have a good time, go from there. But go ahead, Hoop. Let's get to it, man.
One more thing I got to touch on. It's hard to see Hoop rocking the Dak jersey. Money changes people. That's a hell of a comment, man. That is a hell of a comment right there. Love that one.
You've changed, Hoop. You've changed.
I'm a changed man now. Okay, so in terms of like the 3-game slate, you definitely have to treat it way differently than a full 10 or 11 game slate. These are the sort of slates where you can play defenses going against your quarterback. You can overstack. You can play quarterbacks with 3 pass catchers and the running back. Like, you can do a lot of wild things on 3-game slate. So, similar to Showdown slate, which we talk about a lot on the show, is like, you don't want to rule yourself out. You don't want to set up so many rules where you've taken your opportunity of winning, you've taken it and thrown it out the window because you weren't able to get to that build that won because of all the rules you put in place. Kind of similar to an extent with this 3-game slate, like, funky, crazy stuff can win. So a lot of those typical rules that we like, defense going against the quarterback, like, I'm fine with that on this slate. Multiple pass catchers, 3 pass catchers from the same team, fine with that sort of situation. Things that don't correlate, any other situation you can think of that doesn't correlate properly, you can play it on this sort of slate. In terms of like the late swapping strategy, yeah, like, definitely if you're sitting around, if you're around all day and available to make the proper changes, like, yeah, you probably do have a leg up on the competition, potentially. But again, a lot of this news we're going to have. But if you're playing like 1 or 2 or 3 teams, yeah, it's easy to kind of see, all right, now I can pivot off some of these chalkier guys because my guys busted early on, or, man, my low-owned guys got there early on. Now I can make that pivot to the popular guys because, I already got my stable setup with the low-owned guys kind of already going off. So different strategies can be employed. That's why people like it so much. It is a lot of fun. You can do a lot of different things. Like, for me, I'm going to the game. I'm setting my teams early tomorrow morning. Whatever happens, happens for me, and I take that into account. in regards to how I'm playing. Probably playing for a little bit less than I typically do tomorrow because I know I'm not around to make the changes. I'm setting my teams, rolling out, enjoying time with the family at the game. That's my strategy for tomorrow, and that's totally fine if you want to do that. But if you are taking that route, make sure you play for a little bit less.
Yeah, I like that. And then Jordan says this, like, obviously if the cores are hitting, we're excited about that because our goal is to help people win more money. We're just saying the reliance of just going for the cores only, it's not the best way to handle it. And if you actually want to make a process of your own, that's something that you can repeat, apply to other sports, so on and so forth. That is the key, right? So it's a guideline that's there. We know everybody's time is important. They have things like tomorrow, I want to be with their family. You can rely. I'm putting all the time into it. My slate plan is already up. I'll make adjustments to it as needed, but I've put in the time. I've run the stuff. I've gone and compared things. And we're going to talk about a bunch of it today. So for those of you that aren't members yet and haven't used the code or haven't got on board, you're still going to get all the ideas and tips that if maybe I don't win with them, maybe they help you win. And that's part of the process as well.
Yeah. Just one other thing I wanted to touch on, the opposite side of what we've been talking about with the cores and stuff, Scary Creations touched on. Like when I won the Millie at my previous company, like all the members came along with it. So when I win, you're going to have an opportunity because, I put the content up that correlates to what I'm doing on a slate. This year with the Dak situation, right? Dak has treated me very well. Every time I've made a shit ton of money, 6 figures with Dak, he was my top quarterback listed. He was in the core, and a lot of members came along with it. So it's a long, you got to think long-term with this stuff. Like you got to think long-term with this. But if I have a good day, more times than not, members come along with me.
And when we have things like the projections, the stack rank, I mean, most of the weeks, to be honest, the stuff that Hoop was on in his cores were popping. Nades and I went through it with the week Hoop's core smash particularly, or the week that I won with Hamwich's FanDuel slate plan, the stack rankings lined up as well. The projections were in line with it as well. So that's kind of the way it works. You guys definitely have to think of it from that perspective. Title, give me some of your thoughts when it comes to 3-game slates. I've got a few, and then we'll hop into this first game.
Yeah, I think Hoop touched on a lot of it. Onslaughts are most definitely viable. There's not too many is not too many. Can you play defense against your quarterback or any like skill position players? Yeah, for sure. On a 3-game slate, so defenses are so random. Especially if someone gets a kick return or a touchdown, you're going to need them. So definitely don't make rules like that. Onslaught's good. The staggering start time, especially on this slate, very interesting. So I'd always feel with the Lions game in the Dome, a lot of the time it's been like the Packers with the Rodgers and stuff. But that first game gets ownership because it's in the Dome. It's very easy to set right away. But the Cowboys are going to get a lot of ownership too. So the first 2 games are by far going to have the most ownership on the slate is how I'm seeing it, with then McCaffrey late and a piece here or there. Have a plan, I think is the main thing. Like if you want to jam chalk early and then see where you're sitting. I mean, that was my approach for the King of the Beach qualifier. Jam it early. If I'm doing awful, you can switch to low and plays. If you got the chalk right, then you just got to differentiate in one spot or stuff like that. So have a plan with the stagger times. The last thing I think that's important, you can definitely leave salary, especially on a slate like this. Dealing with some injuries, salary is pretty soft, is how I'm seeing it. But also try and get a low owned play in there. Sub 10%, sub 20%. You got to get that difference maker on a 3-game slate that can go out there, grab you 2 touchdowns, something like that. And if you have that person at sub 10%, you just wiped away 90+% of the field. That's how you have a big chance to ship. So I'll be focusing a lot of my lineups getting. It doesn't have to be like a play that might be on the field 5 times to 6 times. There's enough regular players that have good roles that are going to be pretty low owned, just the nature of the slate, the pricing, etc. I'll be looking to get low owned plays in my lineup to get different.
Yeah, one for this one, Papa. You better not show your wife the other sites and what they cost then, because if $1.50 a day is what it works out to is going to be too much. Again, I don't know what you're playing for, but I think that's what's funny is people are paying, even people playing $5-10 a day are like, oh, but I can't pay for that. But you're going to run out $10 a day. That's $300 a month in daily fantasy buy-ins. That's the whole point of why we're trying to make our content cheaper than everyone else. But again, that's the other angle is you're going to have a lot better chance at $1.50 a day over a month to find something to get your money back and make it than you are at some of these other sites paying a lot more. But either way, I digress. I want to apply a lot of what both these guys just said because they hit on all the main points that I would as well to this slate and then jump into Green Bay, Detroit. But here's a prime example. Title just said it. Have a plan for the slate. Leaving salary, defense against quarterback, and onslaughts are like 3 of the most common on 2 or 3 game slates where you can see it happen. Not just, okay, everyone's playing Dak, CD, and Ferguson. how many are adding in Cooks and the defense, or Gallup and the defense on top of that? Again, you have to take certain angles, or how many people play Schoonmaker in there instead of Ferguson or something along those lines. Like, there's lots of different ways that you can do that. But I look at the slate, and here's a prime example for this one. One of the first things that was a big takeaway for me, title hit on both. Have a plan, and guess where the chalk is? The chalk is in the first two games. Who are going to be the two highest owned receivers on the slate are going to be Dak CD and Amon-Ra. They're both in those first two games. Guess what happens if you stack up Brock Purdy? You're going Purdy, Ayuk, Kittle. Guess what? None of those guys are, but also restrict you from those guys in the first two games. Now, you can still fit them in as well, but I'm saying just thinking about things like that out loud, or where that can just be a natural way to get a leg up on the field, where most lineups are going to have at least one of Amon-Ra or CD and have it set up that way. And a lot of those lineups can still fit Christian McCaffrey, no problem, or McCaffrey and one of those two. So you can flip it completely by doing that. And then you have a different place that you can go in that final game of the day with San Francisco and Seattle. So I think it's going to be a good slate as we break it down. Let's hop into it, Hoop. We'll start with you. You said you're going to be at this game, Green Bay, Detroit. So big one to start things off. We got Jordan Love, Jared Goff. I don't know if you're going to be getting any jerseys out of this game. We'll save that for the second one. But give me your thoughts on this Green Bay, Detroit game, some of the stuff that stands out to you.
Yeah, so the first thing that stands out to me on the slate, I mean, most of the ownership is definitely going to Dallas. Like, Dak is going to be owned. CeeDee Lamb is going to be owned. Ferguson is going to be owned. And, Pollard is going to be owned as well. So when you start going through this slate, you need to start, thinking about not necessarily pivots off those guys, because you can play them along. I mean, another thing that stands out is pricing is terrible on DraftKings. Let me just say that right out of the gate. It's really, really soft. You're going to build a team, and it's like an all-star team. You can get all the top guys in there if you want. So those are the two things that stand out, I guess, before we even talk about a game. Pricing very soft. You're going to be able to make all-star teams. And then Dallas is getting a lot of ownership, rightfully so. They're projected to score like 31 actual points. It's the highest team total on the slate. So one pivot in this first game that I see off of, the popular plays in Dallas would be Amon-Ra St. Brown over CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb gets a lot of ownership today, and rightfully so. If you're building multiple teams, I would look to get in some Amon-Ra St. Brown for sure. The rest of the Lions wide receivers, they're turning into, it's one of those situations where they're just mixing in so many different guys. But the one guy that does stand out to me on the Lions outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, like, big touchdown upside. They're going to continue to use him a little bit more. He had issues with drops, obviously, early on. But man, he's a threat to score a touchdown, and a long touchdown, which on a 3-game slate, if he gets one long touchdown, you probably need him. So Jameson Williams is a name that definitely stands out to me. Super cheap, 3.4K. The running back situation on Detroit, Gibbs, Montgomery. Now, the thing with Detroit, in this game, it could be an ugly one. Packers are going to be down a lot of skilled position players. Aaron Jones already ruled out. Jaden Reed popped up on the injury report, and then Musgrave is out. This could be an ugly game. If it's an ugly game, the Lions are going to be fine to shut this down with the running game. Absolutely fine doing that. David Montgomery, I think, is an interesting play here. He has multiple touchdown upside in an ugly type game where the Lions blow them out. Jahmyr Gibbs, fine with him. He has multiple ways to get there. And then Sam Laporta, I think a lot of people are going to be going cheap at tight end. Sam Laporta is definitely a guy that you can play. Jared Goff, I'll have some of. Not thrilled with him, to be honest with you. Like, for the same situation, I think we talked about it kind of last week with that Bears game. Like, they're fine shutting it down with the run if they can get to that point. Jared Goff at 6.3K. I don't like what they did with the pricing at quarterback. There's just not enough like pricing gaps between these guys. Dak's at 6'8", Jared Goff is at 6'3", Purdy's at 6'1". Like, Goff's going to have to outscore both those guys. Can he do it? Yeah, he could, but I don't know if I necessarily love Goff. I'll have some just because I think the Lions have success here, but don't love him. He's probably third or fourth on the list of quarterbacks that I want to play today. So on the Lions side, I think Montgomery at running back is a strong option. He's going to come in not low owned, but he'll come in behind, probably 3 or 4 other running backs. Gibbs can definitely get there. I mean, he has the big play upside. He has the pass catching upside. Amon-Ra St. Brown as a pivot over CeeDee Lamb on some teams. Like, obviously want a ton of CD, don't get me wrong, But in tournaments, I definitely want to make sure I have an adequate amount of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jamison Williams, I think, is a good cheap option. And then Laporta at what I estimate to be pretty low ownership. On the Packers side, are they playing from behind? Now, I tend to believe they probably are playing from behind here. I like the Lions at home to get the job done. They're going to be down Aaron Jones. They're going to be down Luke Musgrave. This is going to be an offense that, has a lot of not necessarily backups in, but guys given better opportunities because of these injuries. Christian Watson, I think, stands out as a strong option. Cheap on both sites, 4,300 on DK, 57, I believe, on FanDuel. We have to see the situation with Jaden Reed because he was just added to the injury report. He's officially listed as questionable. Let's see, something in his chest. I mean, we'll have to see if he's in or out. I mean, if he's in, I think he's a fine play. He has the touchdown upside as well. But if he were to sit, a guy like Romeo Doubs would get a boost. They have the full punt at tight end with Musgrave out, and that's Tucker Kraft. And it's not a guy that's just coming up that's had no work. Like, he was somewhat productive last week. And at 2.5K, you don't need a ton, but he got 2 targets. Hauled them both in for 32 yards. The week before, he got 3 targets. So at 2,500, I think he's fine. And then I do kind of like Jordan Love. Of all the quarterbacks, I think that are, underdogs here, probably my favorite. I mean, they're likely going to have to pass it in this game. He's 5.5K. He has cheap weapons to go with him. Like, you can stack him up with a couple weapons and get all the studs on the slate. So I think he is interesting. And then A.J. Dillon with Aaron Jones. I don't know. I don't love A.J. Dillon, and he will get some ownership. So that could be a spot where I gain some leverage by fading or going way underweight. And then, of course, we got Nades in here stroking his Packers, saying they're going to – you already owe me lunch. We can run that back, and I can go for two lunches on Nades tab if you want that big Nades.
Yeah. And you told me the same that game against the Ravens, and we crushed you. Remember that? So
do we got a lunch deal on that?
I don't need your lunch. I'm saying, but you never know. These Lions, I've been making fun of them all year, but you just never know. I guess the thing is, Title, I'll go to you on this because just in general thoughts, and then we can go through. Hoop did a great breakdown there, but like, everyone has these 3 games just favorite pegged. At least one of them is going to be an upset. I honestly think it would be this one. I don't think Washington is beating Dallas as much as there could be a letdown spot for Dallas. Just don't see it, and I don't see any way Seattle beats San Francisco. So I think the early upset would be the way here. And maybe you can get access to it in DFS from like a Jordan Love stack and get guys like the running backs on the other side or Amon-Ra. But you give me your take, man, on is there an upset on this slate? And then give us your Green Bay Detroit thoughts.
I think no, but if I had to say one, I'm in agreement. I think it would be this first game. I just watched enough of these freaking Packers, especially that A.J. Dillon's going to be the guy out there. They're banged up, short week. Lions have been playing good ball. Like, I just think they run it down their throat at the end of the day. So I guess a good transition. My favorite plays in this game, I think, are Demon and Jamison Williams, because Gibbs is going to be way more popular, probably double the ownership, and rightfully so. He's looked really good, but not double the ownership, rightfully so. I mean, Gibbs has had good touchdown variance the last 2 weeks. Demon still was on the goal line for first and goal last time. I think Gibbs got on second down, caught a pass, but give me the leverage with Gibbs or with Demont. And some people are asking, can you play both of them? And it's very interesting because it's a 3-game slate. I'm not going to group it away by any means. Looking at the touchdown props, Demont minus 150, Gibbs minus 120. They're implied for a lot of points. Packers are a run funnel team. I think they can both get there on a slate like this. C-Mac's obviously very good up there. You can always poke holes in A.J. Dillon. Like, Charbonnet is going to be getting a good amount of ownership. But I think both of them are interesting as a contrarian route. Excited to hear your takes, or interested to hear your takes on that. As far as quarterbacks, I don't love them in this game. I do prefer Love to Goff if I had to pick, because the rushing upside, the price is nice as well. It's tough for me to get to these pocket passers. There's enough rushing upside on a slate like this. The Packers receivers are very interesting because I think, assuming Jaden Reed does play, I think him and Christian Watson, very, very underpriced. We mentioned the pricing. You can definitely leave 1.5K in salary, 2K even salary in large field stuff on this slate. But I think Reed and Watson get the most ownership. And right to get different, Romeo Doubs, you're paying a little, probably more than you want to be contrarian. But I think he's been he's either been number 1 or 2 guy. Jaden Reed's been a beast in the slot too, but loves Romeo Doubs out there on these 5-game slates or on these 3-game slates to get different in spots. Doubs is going to be on the field a ton. Pay a little more. Don't play a Watson. Don't play a Reed. I'll be looking at Romeo Doubs to get different. Amon-Ra, he's going to be not low owned by any means, but I think he'll be lower owned than C-Mac and lower owned than CeeDee Lamb. So what does that ownership get to? Who knows? Sign me up for Amon-Ra. The dude's a complete stud. Talked about Jameson Williams. I'm also going to be looking at Josh Reynolds. I know I'm listing a lot of plays, but a lot of these like Watson, Reed, A.J. Dillon, these guys might be pretty popular. There's enough low-owned pieces in this game. The Lions side, Williams, the number 3, big play guy. I'm buying in on him. The talent from Alabama has been crazy. Dealt with the injury, the suspension, finally got in the box last week, caught the ball. Sign me up for Jameson Williams. He's that big play, can go 60 yards. And house one, Josh Reynolds, no one's going to play, and I definitely prefer Jameson Williams, but he's still out there running routes. A lot of it is cardio, but he's a number 2 receiver. Like these are these sub 15% owned plays. Like you catch 1 touchdown, very, very cheap. I do prefer Jameson Williams, but I think Josh Reynolds, he'll be on the field. He can make plays. How I'd rank these receivers, I don't know. Jameson Williams and Doubs, give me those 2 as my favorite low-owned guys. If Reed was out for some reason, then the Datavian Wicks gets a big bump. Torres gets some bump. But I think Wicks will play, so I'm not even going to talk about that. Talked about the running back room. Prefer Montgomery to Gibbs. I like them both. I'm still curious what you guys are going to say about if you're going to make a rule. A.J. Dillon, man, the price is so good. He's just so bad. Touchdown props good at plus 122. Game script probably going to be bad. He's someone I'm good just going underweight on. Tight end, yeah, so Tucker Kraft, I mean, he screams value. 2.5K, like double tight end builds are pretty viable. I actually think he's pretty good. He's athletic after he does catch the ball, pretty big. And like Josiah DeGuara, I'm expecting him to play, but fullback.
That's a note, by the way, because people bring us like he hasn't practiced yet. He's still injured since Sunday, so we'll find out tomorrow. But I mean, you're looking at Kraft right now, and that's it.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, even
Ben
if it
Sims
is
guy, whatever. I don't know about Ben Sims, but Kraft came in and got balls right away. It was already mentioned by our guy Nuance, who he is a homer, I believe, but he said this is true too. Like Hutchinson can give Love a lot of problems,
sure.
And so I think like you can run Montgomery, Detroit D, and just use Kraft. And then, yeah, you're playing your defense against a skill player, but it's not even against a quarterback. It's against a dude that could just catch 4 balls for 40, and it lets you fit everything else into the lineup. If you have a build where the Detroit guys are doing this, then you can go the other way. So I think Hutchinson could be a guy, and it's the opposite of Homer. So I know it's the other side. He's on the Packers side. I'm saying he's saying the truth of how he could see it going against his team. So I think it's definitely an option there. But right now, I'm just looking at Kraft. Carry on.
No, I am too. Like Kraft is actually good. Like I actually think he's a good football player. His role is going to be, regardless of DeGuara in or out. But if DeGuara is in, he might be 1%, 2%. And like if Jaden Reed was out, maybe more 2 tight end sets. Like I just at the end of the day, if I'm 150, like he's 1% on, he would be in the pool min price there. I love Kraft though. Laporta, you can always play him for sure. How do I like him among? I don't know. I think I lean the Amon-Ra, the Jameson Williams and stuff, but he'll be in the pool. Only so many tight ends you can go to. And then, defenses and stuff. I'll be mixing all these defenses. I do think the Lions, you keep mentioning it, though. I like the running game for Detroit. The game script will be there. I expect Love to drop back a lot. Hutchinson will have his ears pinned back. This offense, everything screams. Lions are going to smash Jordan Love and the Packers. So it's a great game. But there's, like you said, you can go Montgomery, Lions D, Kraft. And you could throw in like a Jameson Williams or like a really cheap play too if it makes it work. And then just go to the next game. Then you do know if all of them bust, maybe you don't want to eat Dak Prescott and all the chalk that way. Or you're just playing the min cash game and stuff like that. So you know where you're at after the first. It comes back to it. Have a plan. Stagger times, just like NBA Christmas Day. You know where you're sitting after each game. You know where the field's sitting. Have a plan. Can you bank? Are you playing that min cash game? Etc. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I think in future shows like this, we're going to do position by position because it's way easier to talk about the full slate than us just me to repeat everything you guys just said. So for this game, I'll just tie in a couple thoughts I have from a DFS perspective, from a 3-game slate perspective. Amon-Ra, with or without Goff, I think that's what, like, here's an example for me, just thinking out loud. Amon-Ra can get there on 10 for 120 and nothing, or get 1 touchdown out of that and not need Goff. It doesn't even mean that Love came along on the other side. quick thought there would be, I think he will definitely be lower owned than Lamb. That's not the question. I wonder what that delta looks like when we get to tomorrow, because what ends up happening is people start leaning away. So Amon-Ra in some Dak lineups with no Lamb is another interesting way to do it, where he could just rack up the PPR. Dak still goes off with his other guys. That's one angle I would be looking at there. The other angle is David Montgomery. I'm with you, Title, 100%. I like him way more. I think more and more people are going to lean that way by the time we get, again, it doesn't mean Gibbs won't have ownership too. I just think people are going to like the idea of Montgomery, and it's not really just the savings because it's only like $500. It's more of just they can see him jamming in the goal line. He's been doing more lately, all of that. So I could see that. I think the rest of it you set up pretty precisely. Like if you like Dylan, I would think that means the Packers are in the ball game. So then I kind of want either Goff and something on the other side, or I want the Packers D. It's like one of those two ways to punch them in that sense I mentioned earlier. What if Green Bay shows up? And that's how I would see that. And then lastly, I like the Jameson Williams play at the price, everything that he's capable of. But man, it just, again, it's all balance. Like if it's a 12-point game, maybe that's still enough and he's good at that price. But if it's a Jameson Williams game, like I would do, like I like Goff, Jameson Williams, Laporta, or something to really set it up differently, where it's like, that's going to be like Laporta gets a touchdown plus some and beats all these cheap tight ends that everyone's on. That's going to be an opposite of Tucker Kraft. That's going to be Jameson Williams catches a 60-yard throw it in the air bomb and comes down with it, maybe makes another one later on. That's where you can mix it up that way. So that's where I'd be looking at from the Goff side. For the Love side, I think it would just be like an interesting option would be like Montgomery for Detroit, Love and Kraft, and then jam all the studs. And you hope that he connects with Kraft on a touchdown. You hope Love does a little bit with his legs. And then maybe it's enough that all those other studs rack up the points elsewhere. And you could play still multiple Dallas guys and things like that. So Hoop, I'll kick it back to you. Or go ahead, Tyler.
Are you guys setting a Montgomery Gibbs max one rule on this slate?
No, I think you actually are opposite. I think you're going to have to force that to get it. I don't see, again, people looking at their sim lineups or people that are hand building are going to get it because they're going to find that's what's going to set the lineup apart and make it different to say like that keeps it contrarian. But I think you need a lot to go your way to have it happen. It's definitely a way to get different on this slate. I'm not sure.
So are you setting that rule? So you don't like it, but are you setting that rule?
I don't have to. No, I'm not setting any rule.
You're just not going to get that.
But I don't think you're going to get it is what my point is. So it doesn't really matter. People are setting the rule, just probably wasted a minute setting a rule. It's not like how often are you going to get those two guys in the same lineup? It's so unlikely here in the spot when you have $8,700 CMC, when you have Pollard at $6,700. You got all these, Charbonnet, who we'll get to later or whatever. Like there's just, I don't see it happening. I think you're going to have to force it to make it happen. Hoop, you got thoughts on that?
Yeah, just one couple things I want to touch on with the Montgomery. I think he comes in substantially lower owned than Gibbs. Gibbs is the sexier play. Gibbs has the pass catching upside. Everyone sees that. Gibbs has been getting solid ownership every slate. Montgomery, obviously coming off the injury, but not so much. So I think if you like Montgomery, I think it's a really good, leverage type spot tomorrow because we have solid running backs. We have a solid running back on the Lions already with Gibbs that people are going to go to. I think Montgomery comes in not low.
Are you seeing 2040 right now?
I think Gibbs, whatever the number is, I think Gibbs gets double whatever Montgomery. I believe that to be true. I think he gets, or maybe a little less than double, but still, I think there's substantial difference between the two, and I don't think it's going to change, to be honest with you. And I think that was the final point. The other point was our guy Nades is like just embarrassing himself in the chat. By the way, he's like, "You told me T Law was getting 16." Okay, so I was right. 10 weeks, and you were right one. Take a hike on that one. The perfect spot for the Packers to win on Thanksgiving. Everyone thinks the Lions going to smash, but he's not a homer. It's not a homer take. It's just his favorite team that he thinks is going to win, and they suck. And there's another comment. This guy is just, a mess in the chat right now.
Then he jumps back on your team, though, here. Then he jumps back on your team.
Okay. All right.
He knows how to
softens the blow. I'll soften the blow a little bit because he made a nice comment.
I will bet a lunch bet that it's not double the ownership on Montgomery versus Gibbs.
It's going to be, I think, it'll be in that range, I think. Let's say, whatever, you said 20-40, maybe it's 38-22 or something. I think there is a substantial difference, I'd say, between. There's no way it gets close. How about that?
All right, that's I think opposite of that, but we can move on. Let's take it to your favorite team, your favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys at home versus Washington. Let's get into this next one, and I'll let you and Title go at it again here and try and get a thought process, and then I'll try and round it out with putting it all together like I did on the last one. But give us your takes on this one, Hoop.
Yeah, I'll talk a little less because I know that that really hurts you when your words are limited. So
no, I just on a 3-gamer, I truly do see it this way. I
know
probably, everyone likes a different style. I just really think it's more about what the entire slate is doing than really like we're not playing showdown, so I don't need to know what's going to exactly happen in this game and what that's a way to do it. But I think it matters way more about thinking of the entire slate and what everyone's doing. But this works good because you guys give me ideas and then I can try and put them together and maybe someone can use those to their advantage. And again, this team better than anyone.
I loved your Dak no CD Amon-Ra. So your little points like that is how you. Is it crazy if Amon-Ra outscored CD and Dak still gets there? Not even close. So little things like that are definitely things that I keep in my head as well.
Yeah, that's like
little
double
things like that too. It's not the big 100%. Changes or the diamond in the rough play. It's how did you just do something slightly different than the rest of the field?
Yeah, that one makes a ton of sense because Amon-Ra can get there without Goff. We've seen it multiple times. And then Dak can get there without CeeDee Lamb. He has so many other weapons to go to. So that sort of build I do actually really like because Brown is a direct pivot off CeeDee Lamb. And one I think was Title brought up the point of all the studs on the slate, Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to get the lowest ownership. He's coming in below CeeDee Lamb. He's coming in below McCaffrey. Those are kind of like the big three, and that's going to hold true. Sam Cheeks Howell could be the guy. Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a three game slate. I mean, anything's possible. I do happen to think this is a really bad spot for Washington. Short week, their quarterback. I mean, it's just getting sacked at such a high rate. Dallas defense is the top D on the slate. Howell can get there, and Dallas D can still be optimal type thing. So that's another negative correlation type play. If you like Howell, you can play him. You can also play him on the same team with the Dallas defense. So that's one thing. In terms of this game, this is going to be the most popular spot. The Dallas Cowboys are projected to score over 30 points. They're favored by almost 2 touchdowns. They've just kind of been rolling lately. Dak, again, all jokes aside, has been a really good fantasy quarterback this season. He's won us a lot of money. He's playing better than he's played all throughout his career. Again, I have to say this little side note: when push comes to shove and they're in the playoffs, he's going to shit the bed, and Dallas will not make a run with him as their quarterback. I have to denote that every time I talk about Dak. But for fantasy purposes, on this 3-game slate, he's the premier quarterback. Will be the highest owned. How do you play him? How do you get different with him as your quarterback? The last note about Amon-Ra St. Brown is one way. Overstacking is another way. A lot of people are only going to want 2 pass catchers. You can play 3. You can play him with Pollard. You can play him with the backup tight end in Schoonmaker. I mean, I don't know how many teams I'll have with Schoonmaker, but he's 2,600. He caught the touchdown last week. Jalen Tolbert. Michael Gallup won't have much ownership. Like I said, you can play him with Powell if you want. But again, these are going to be the highest owned guys on the slate: Dak, CD, Ferguson. So if you're building teams like that, make sure you're doing things different in those sort of builds. But all these guys are in play. I'm good with Tolbert. He gets red zone looks. Michael Gallup. Just have a feeling that it could be Gallup tomorrow. I don't know why. It's just something that popped in my head. He gets so many opportunities, hasn't really had the big game. I think it could be Gallup tomorrow. So let's mark this video and we'll play it back on Monday when Gallup wins us $1 million or whatever it is. In terms of the Washington side, I'm not as high. It's a really bad spot for Washington, I think, going against this Dallas defense, Dallas being at home. Howell has had the big fantasy game. Brian Robinson had the big fantasy game last week. I guess with Robinson, he does have a lot of different paths to get there. We saw it last week. He really didn't do anything on the ground, but then he goes out and catches, 6 or 7 passes, I think. 9 targets, 7 receptions. He could certainly have a similar game to what he had last week, where it doesn't really get it done on the ground, but racks up a ton of targets. I guess we have to get confirmation that Antonio Gibson is going to be out. He's officially listed as questionable, I'm assuming. So he was limited. I guess there's a chance he comes back. If he does, that would take Brian Robinson completely out of the picture. For Dallas, stacks, like run backs, my favorite would be McLaurin or Dodson. McLaurin has a really good price tag, and I guess Curtis. They do have options here. Curtis Samuel at 3,600, Logan Thomas at 3,500. So there's 4 guys you can play on the Washington side: McLaurin, Dodson, Samuel, Thomas. Dodson's a guy I just try to get, even on the main slates. I always try to get exposure to Dodson. He just has big time touchdown upside. And he is, what's the price on him? 4,600. It's a price where I don't think a lot of people go. He's got 4 touchdowns on the season, touchdowns in 3 out of his last 4 games. He's a low-owned option that I kind of have some interest in. If people are looking for Washington run backs, it's probably going to be McLaurin or Logan Thomas, I'd say. Dotson will be up on that list for me tomorrow. But there's a lot of guys you can play on this Washington side. We need to see the status of Antonio Gibson. If he's in, I definitely won't play him. And then I definitely I'd most likely be off Brian Robinson. On the Dallas side, you know the story. I mean, if you're playing these popular guys, look to do something a little bit different in your teams.
Yeah, Samuel should be well rested. I can tell you that because I played him in King of the Beach and he got ejected in the second quarter. So he should be ready to go. Only 3,600 on this slate. I think it's definitely an interesting option. I like your takes on, again, we'll wait on the Antonio Gibson news, but that's the thing about Hal throwing so much and dropping back so much and all that. It is just these quick little outs. That's why you're seeing guys like Robinson even pick up more targets. Logan Thomas fumbled on like the second catch, but still ended up with 5 or 6 catches. Like he still is a guy that he's going to throw to. And I think it's one of the most obvious, I don't know how many people will go to the Hal side of this game, but the most obvious ways to leverage up is if somehow you think Washington can stay in this game, would be the opposite side of Dak, because we expect Dak to go off. That could keep it in to push that game. And then you could use Dallas D against Sam Howell, no problem, like Hoop said off the top. So definitely don't hate that one either. Title, give us your thoughts on this game. How do you got it?
Well, first of all, you got robbed on that ejection. What is that dude doing? Come on.
I don't even know what, but I don't even know why Curtis Samuel's running to jump into the mix. Like, settle down, buddy. Like, just take a hike yourself. Go back to, I don't know. It was stupid,
bro. Like you're not taking anyone out. Like you're a little slot wide receiver. Like get the fuck out. I
gotta blame my guy Sam Howell though, because if you saw the play, Howell was in and he knew he was in.
And then he went for it again. What's he doing?
Instead of sitting on it and then letting the umpire, the judges do the call or anything upstairs, whatever, he tries to like run in again with like a stiff arm. And Buddy was just like, no, you're not getting this. And like tossed him out. And it's like, oh God, just the worst. But yeah, talk to us about this one, Title. This should still be a good game, I think. We'll see.
No, yeah, I think so too. So obviously the Dallas side is going to be so popular. The highest plays on this slate, like Dak's going to be way up there. Cowboys D is going to be popular. CD, Pollard, Jake Ferguson, all great plays. Again, you can overstack it, all of that. Howell's fine. I mean, he can run. Like Dallas is a very good defense. They're tough up front. They're tough in the back end. Dallas probably jumps out to an early lead, runs the football against a bad defense. Like it totally makes sense why Howell's so low owned. But comparing him to Geno, comparing him to Goff, even Jordan Love, like I will be playing some Howell as my lower owned quarterback just with his rushing upside, how much he drops back, which takes you to the wide receivers. Yeah, he has multiple options. Terry McLaurin, Dotson, Curtis Samuel, and then you get Logan Thomas at tight end. I'd be lying if I loved any of them or they stood out. Samuel's my favorite, I think, at the price tag. Probably Dotson 2, Terry 3. It is a lot. Like I don't love any of them by any means, though. The Gibson stuff's kind of important, but still 5.9 for Brian Robinson. Like if you play Brian Robinson, it kind of goes back to what you were saying with AJ Dillon playing Packers D and doing that. Like if Brian gets there, it has to be a close game, at least how I see it, for a lot of the game. So I mean, he's catching some dump offs or running the ball, taking air in the football or taking the air out of the football, keeping it close that way. If they're down 14-0, it's really hard for me to see Brian Robinson get there. So when I do put Robinson in, he'll be low owned. I don't like him much, but I'm going to be making sure the game script makes sense. Tony Pollard, you only can play so many running backs on this slate. He got there last week. I'll be playing him, but I still do think that Gibbs, Montgomery, Montgomery's going to be way lower owned for sure. Pollard and Gibbs, probably Pollard will be higher owned there. So no strong takes. The wide receiver and CD. Brandon Cooks has had a huge role the past couple of weeks at 4.5K. Love him. And then you were talking Gallup. What about Jalen Tolbert, Hoop? He's been taking actually. Gallup snaps have gone down a bit, and they're liking this Jalen Tolbert guy. It's hard to look too much at last week, the fourth quarter. A lot of the starters didn't play. But Jalen Tolbert all the way down there, 3.1K. Like, I do prefer Jamison Williams in that range. He's going to be super low owned, though. I much prefer him to Gallup. And then going to the tight end position, I don't think Shoemaker is the worst play. They have been running more 2 tight end sets at the expense of Gallup as well. So he's fine. It's mainly he's going to be super, super low owned. The pivot off the Crafts of the world, pivot off a chalky Ferguson. Maybe you catch that 25-yard seam route like you did last week. But I love Ferguson. It's going to be chalky. He's too cheap. Dak loves him there. That is good chalk I will definitely be eating. But moral of the story, I think Howell does fine with how many weapons he has, how much he'll drop back, and how low owned it'll be. I think Tolbert's very interesting as a punt receiver, very low ownership. I think Brandon Cooks might be my favorite play in this game, though. His role has been massive as of late.
Definitely.
And on Tolbert, for sure, just to touch on that point real fast, 5 targets. I know last game. Let's pull that. I think it's someone posted a hand post. Yeah, 3 straight games with 5 targets. They're trying to get this guy involved. And then if you want another like super, super deep sleeper would be Turpin, 3K flat. He had a couple targets last week too. So, I mean, in the Millie Maker, those are the sort of things you need to be thinking about. But yeah, definitely on Tolbert.
I think there's, again, same thing in this game, just talking out loud, but hearing these guys talk, easy angles too. Like Ferguson is an awesome play. Logan Thomas, it's the best matchup that you're going to get against Dallas is with tight ends and a dude that's going to get checkdowns all day, fumbled last game and still went back to him like 5 more times. He can just rack that up. He's the opposite side for a little bit cheaper, all of that. Another thing that stood out this game and last, Dobbs in a range nobody wants to go to. In this game, Hoop said it, Dotson in a range nobody wants to go to. They're going up or down. They're going the Tolberts or the Gallups or whatever, if they are, or they go up to the high-end stuff. It's these mid-tier guys that aren't getting the action as much. The other thing is about these last 2 games, just tying them together before we get to the last, is like the Love one might even be harder. I know it's, it's just one of those things. But yes, you have like Watsons and guys like Kraft and things to make it work. But the thing about Love in the last game and Hal in this game is that's how you get everybody in. Like you can build a Hal lineup that has Logan Thomas, and then you can play CMC, Amon-Ra, and Lamb and actually get away with it, or just drop Lamb to Cooks and really keep pumping up the rest of your lineup. There's still a lot of money to be made and that you can use, to hopefully make a lot of money with these plays when you can just jam more of them in. And you really just need kind of like one thing to go your way more than this diamond in the rough play to go your way. It's like diamond in the rough with Dak, or just stack the opposite side of the game with real players that are wide receiver 2s or wide receiver 1s on those teams and able to get there. Howell, Dotson, and Thomas won me 100K like 3 weeks ago. They can get there in a game. It's not you're playing Dallas. It's tough, but it's a 3-game slate. You can only go so many places anyway. And that type of setup gets you where you can go a bunch of other ways. I think you could play Logan Thomas and Ferguson double tight end lineups as well, and then just jam it up in the middle through the wide receiver and running back position. Pollard was the interesting one to me. Like, again, not all these guys can be chalk. So I don't understand. Again, we'll see tomorrow when the numbers break out, but like Gibbs, Pollard, even the Dallas side of things, just in general, Pollard and Dak and CD and Ferguson, like I get maybe more people are onslaughting than not nowadays, but I guess that would be why, because right now I'm seeing Pollard still being one of the higher owned running backs after CMC. And then maybe if Gibbs does get up that high, I could see it. But I think a lot of people that don't go with the Dallas stacks are going to go with Pollard as well. So it's just another way to look at it. And then who mentioned it? Like, even if you want to go CD Lamb and Ferguson, that's common. I love that start. But I think then it's what you do beyond that. Do you add in Tolbert? Do you add in a Gallup? Do you put the Dallas D with one more of those guys and a double tight end lineup? Like, there's a lot of different ways that you can build this stack up and still get different elsewhere, even if you're not leaving tons of money on the table. So I'm okay with that setup. I don't have too much else with this one. We'll wait on the Gibson news. I guess the last 2 things were people keep bringing up Dowdle. Another guy didn't even practice today. We'll see. We'll know more. Didn't practice yesterday. Sorry. We'll know more by the end of today or if he's going to be good to go for tomorrow. But that's one guy to keep an eye on. And then also Hendershot. He got activated from the 21-day. He got activated to the 21-day window last week, practiced. They held him out against Carolina. There's actually a chance. We'll see. Maybe they hold him out again, another one, but there is a chance that he could be in, which would mess up some of the Ferguson, Schoonmaker. There would just be more options there for Dallas, even more passing options. So just keep an eye on that as well. Title, anything else you want to add with that one? If not, you can take us into this last one, San Fran, Seattle.
If you guys had to pick Howell or Love, which one are you guys rolling with? Because I look at them very similar. You're probably going to have to drop back a lot, has some rushing upside, they have weapons.
Probably Love for that reason and just hope for the up. Plus, I can get 3 cheap guys if Kraft can work, or if Watson or if Reed plays, like guys like that. I guess I'm saying I can play 3 guys there, probably more rushing upside and fit more studs on what's likely to be a raw point slate. I do like them both, though. That's why I brought those 2 up more than trying to make a Geno Smith work in the last game. I know people were excited for Drew Lock. It sounds like it's just a bruise. Good segue into that game that we're going to see Geno tomorrow. So, yeah, I really do. I like them both, but I would probably just have a slight leg up to Love just for the pricing and the guys that I can fit in with them.
That makes sense. Any thoughts on that? The last thing, too, is where you're at early. Like, if you do have to swap, if you are on your computer, you have more info going into
lineups are probably dead, to be honest, at that point.
Yeah,
but you are right. You're right, but it's like you're probably dead by now.
You're either more tilted, so if you're already going to be hammering, each way, if you're going to be mad if your lineups are doing bad, maybe go Howell so you're not ruining the family vibe.
Right in the middle, you're all good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess, it's probably going to be Love for me, but I think I definitely like the weapons better. Like, if you are going to go Howell, you have 4, I think, pretty solid options. Like, and you can use multiple, like McLaurin, Dotson, Samuel, Thomas. But then it comes back to like the price tag, which like Samuel or Howell has to beat all the favored quarterbacks at 6.2K. Like, he's got to beat Goff, he's got to beat Prescott, and he's got to beat Brock Purdy. At least with Love, you get a little bit of a discount. You're dropping down to 5,500, so he's kind of in a tier below. So yeah, I'll say Love for that reason, because again, I would just think Howell would have to beat all the top quarterbacks, whereas Love, it would give you a little bit of a different look potentially.
I think the defense battle too. Like, it's definitely a much better matchup for Love. It's just whether or not he can do anything. Like, you can get there against Detroit. It's Dallas D has been phenomenal. So it's like that's the other angle where, like I said, I don't see as much. I just like it because it's the opposite side of Dak. I think that's kind of the angle we always see. Oh, everyone's on a Josh Allen stack. If somehow the other side keeps up, then that's the back and forth that you get that still can outweigh it point per dollar. And with the other stuff, you max up with it. But from a pricing and matchup perspective, I think it has to be Love just for the setup of it. I think at least that's how I look at it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I like these discussions are important on these 3 games, especially the first 2 games. We spent a lot of time on it. It's where a lot of the ownership's going. So I'll break down this last one quick. It's the running back position where people are going. Purdy will be one of the more popular quarterbacks. I love Purdy because there's so many pass catchers, and you look at these pass catchers, they're all kind of going under own. Like, people like saving money at tight end. Sign me up for George Kittle, overspending at that position. There's Ayuk, there's Debo, there's so many mouths there. The CMC, a lot of people are going to. Give me Purdy is probably, like, I love Dak. In a vacuum, of course, I do prefer Dak a little bit. But tournaments, ownership, all that, Purdy is my favorite quarterback. It's that last game, so you know how you're sitting. So many different ways to go. You can put CMC in that lineup. We've talked about enough value on this slate. I'm definitely on the Purdy train. And again, it's mainly with just how many pass catchers, mainly Ayuk, the Debos, the Kittles, at their ownership, though. Any naked Purdy love? Yeah.
Recency bias, remember? We just saw the recency bias effect. Everyone that knows we broke down those lineups. There was a Purdy naked lineup that got the job done. So, we got to go right back to it. But I think I like stacking them up better. Keep going, but I was saying I like if you are playing them to stack them up because it's getting you naturally different from the early stuff. So even if it's just a portion of your portfolio, I like having those lineups where you're on something completely different than the rest of the field. And if somehow that stuff busts early on, again, in those lineups, you're going to build in, if this doesn't go this way, then this could happen. That's how I'm building those lineups. And I think those are good lineups to have at the back end of the day, just to be there in case. If not, you got Showdown. Anyway, we'll be going to different stuff for that on the site too, but keep going.
Exactly. We saw it last year. Like, the least favorite game was the Vikings and Patriots by a mile. That was the game you needed. Of course, you needed Jets, but that game completely nuked. Mac Jones, I think, won all the cheat. Like, it can definitely happen. These games can bust. There's a lot of big spreads on this slate. So, yeah, at the end of it, I like Purdy a lot. Still like CMC. The running backs, him and Charbonnet, CMC and Charbonnet, that is, will be the highest owned for sure in this game. No Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet price is good. I hate A.J. Dillon, which means I'm probably going to have more Charbonnet than I want. It is a tough matchup, no doubt, but he's good. Less competition. I'm not worried about any of these backup running backs. CMC's the man as always. Touchdown Ayuk, touchdown Debo. I don't think I'm going to, as much as I've talked about, like Jawan Jennings, Ray McLeod's, like, there's no need. Let me go to the Curtis Samuels, the Jameson Williams, Josh Reynolds of the world, but I'll be overweight on Ayuk and Debo because they're not really going to be that highly owned, and I like playing a lot of Purdy. On the other side, you can always play DK, Lockett, JSN. I really don't like that side, but because I am going to be overweight on San Fran stacks, I'll be mixing and matching all those guys. JSN's probably my favorite because of the price, then Lockett, then DK. But we know DK has that upside and going to be very low owned. Pretty much all these receivers on both sides of the ball are going to be low owned relative to this slate who we've talked about. Tight end position, easy fade on Seattle side. No thanks on Fant, Disley, Parkinson. They beat me. Love George Kittle. A lot of people like the Laportas, the Fergusons, the Crafts of the world. I'll overpay, I guess, a little bit. And we know the upside he has. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I like Purdy, because there's Debo, there's Ayuk, there's Kittle. So many people will be higher owned than all of these guys. People want the first game, the second game, rightfully so. Give me these Purdy stacks, and hope we saw what we saw last week. Ayuk gets loose. Debo gets loose, something like that. And if you don't play CMC, you also leverage one of the highest owned running backs if you want to do it that way. But you can easily, of course, play CMC in your Purdy stacks.
Yeah, I'll let you go here in a sec, but I just think one thing to note is it falls right in that same bucket again. We already mentioned, it was off what you guys were saying, but the Dobbs one came up in the first game, 5,000. Dotson came up 4,600. McLaurin last game came up 5,400. Debo falls into this camp too. Everyone's playing CMC, and I'll let Hoop talk. Do we just lock him or what in a second? But 8,700, the best matchup, makes perfect sense. You want the passing attacks in the first two games, or at least most people do, and that's where they're going. Debo is 5,900 after Ayuk just had another big game. Ayuk's looked like the guy. So I could see Debo with the turkey leg in his mouth after this game, having the big one, holding the chain up and doing his thing. I could easily see that. Even Lockett is 6K, falls into this range. And what's the better matchup for that side? And we'll see what happens with DK. But that mid-tier range, it's everyone, CD, Brown, Ayuk, probably in that order too, like as far as ownership goes. But still, from there, after that, it drops down to the cheap guys like Brandon Cooks and down, Watson or Reed, the Samuels of the world, the Tolberts people want to make work, all these other plays. This mid-range wide receiver pool seems to be going overlooked. So you can talk about that, Hoop, and then also what do we do with CMC here on a slate where he's going to be the highest owned, but for good reason. I don't know why he would be 8,700 on a 3-game slate in the best matchup versus 11-game slate, all kinds of places to go, and he's 9,300. It just seems so odd. But go ahead, you talk about the price.
Makes it somewhat annoying just because you can play all the studs, but everyone's going to do that, so you can kind of use it to your advantage as well when you kind of go and build those teams with CMC. Like, how can you play him and be different? Play 49ers onslaught teams, Purdy, McCaffrey, Ayuk, like multiple games, multiple times throughout the season, and especially on these smaller 3-game slates. All those guys have gotten there in some way, shape, or form. CMC, there's nothing to really talk about. He's going to probably get at least 20 points with the upside to get into the 30s. Even if he just gets you the 20, could be enough on the slate to be the running back that you need. So it's hard not to take a massive overweight stance on McCaffrey. How do you take a massive overall stance on him? You have to come close to locking him in because he's going to be very highly owned. Agree with what Title said with the pass catchers. I want Purdy to Ayuk. I want Purdy to Samuel, to Kittle. To me, this is, Lions and 49ers are probably the second best offenses on the slate. Obviously, that's not a hot take by any means, just by looking at the team total, similar team total to the Lions. I like the overall pieces, though, more for fantasy purposes on the Niners side. Kittle stands out for sure. I haven't played much Kittle on these main slates, but we're talking a 3-game slate, and he clearly is going to come in lower owned than Ferguson, probably Logan Thomas, probably even Kraft, and maybe even Laporta. So you're looking at a guy that could be the 5th highest owned tight end on this slate. And he just caught a 70-yard bomb or something. Was it this week or last week or the week before? So I definitely want to make sure I'm getting some Kittle in there. I want Ayuk. I definitely want some Debo. It's just kind of weird that they're coming in they're going to come in pretty low, and there's just no way around it. So I'm in on all pieces. Overstack spot. You can play McCaffrey with Purdy and another pass catcher, or even 2 pass catchers. There's just a lot of ways you can go about getting exposure to this team. On the Seattle side, Charbonnet seems like a safe option. Do I think he finds success running the ball? Probably not, but he doesn't need to because he gets a lot of pass catching work as well, and he's only 5.3K. So he is a premier play on the slate. The passing offense, though, scares me. I definitely don't want any Geno, and I really don't know how much Metcalf and Lockett I'll get, to be honest with you. This could be a spot where I potentially fade and just hope it's other wide receivers or just end up severely underweight on guys like this. So it's kind of where I'm at here.
Yeah, that's a good breakdown of it. I think that's kind of where I was thinking as well. Just looking at some of the other stuff too, the Kittle thing. I think when people go to Purdy lineups, a lot of them, because you have the money, will still get CMC in there, and for good reason. I'm just saying, again, back to my portfolio of lineups, I would definitely want some lineups that are Purdy with Kittle and one of Ayuk or Debo, and do it that way instead, and then play some of these Detroit running backs. You could still get Charbonnet in there in the same game. You can go to Pollard in the other spot, or you can play a cheaper running back and try and get up to the higher end wide receivers to get it different that way. But I think that's kind of just one of the things. It's definitely very easy to still fit Purdy, CMC, and Kittle, even though you're paying up at the tight end instead of most people aren't. You're changing the money from Dak down to Purdy in the most common builds, and then going down from there. The chat talking about Bobo. Anything else, Title, that you want to add before we get out of here, man? Just anything else on this game or anything else you wanted to bring up that we could talk about for this slate?
No, I think we covered it a lot. Again, onslaughts, you can leave plenty of salary, pricing soft, mix in someone under 15% owned, low owned plays, get different. Like, you can't be playing all the chalk unless you want to. It's not necessarily a showdown slate, but it's definitely not a classic slate either. And I would actually lean more showdown than classic slate with only 3 games. You do have to be cognizant of ownership, pairings. I loved you can go Dak, but no CD, then go Amon-Ra. Like, there is pass. Think of ways you can get different, but not things that are too crazy. That you don't need to be playing Bobo, Ray McLeod, and like Jordan Mason or any There's a fine line between different, but still have a chance to win, and different yet donating your money on fire. But no, I mean, Thanksgiving, man. Hope everybody out there enjoys it. Again, I was kind of joking earlier. I will be with friends. I won't be around family, so I will be locking in doing late swap. 2 years ago when I was a hoop at the game, I didn't know late swap and didn't have the 85% running back because this guy with Tony Jones Jr. Thankfully, it worked out. Just have a plan going in. If you're not going to be around, maybe play a little lighter, but enjoy it, of course. But no, last thing, I'm thankful for everyone out here, man. Thanksgiving, always be grateful. Gratitude, very important. At the end of the day, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to a camera, talking about sports almost every day if it wasn't for these 250 people watching live, people watching on playback. So, no, really thankful, really blessed, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Yeah, well said. Really appreciate where that's coming from. Feel the same way. Speak for all of us, I think, when it comes to that. Thank you guys always for supporting, watching, appreciating it. We are going to we'll give away the monthly membership on the Black Friday show so people can get into the Black Friday slate and then the whole weekend of everything as well. So we'll have it all set up that way. But Hoop, did you have a winner for the 333 ticket? It was for a member to get in. People had time to sign up throughout the show on top of the members in the Discord. The 333 ticket that Mark F is giving away. Want to get that out so that they can get in to the Wildcat tournament tomorrow with $200K up top.
Yeah, so it's going to a member, and this kind of just plays into the show. We had a nice comment in our NFL chat in our Discord. Our guy Drew1320, he goes, signed up with you guys first week you launched and haven't regretted it since. Because I travel for work, so being able to just look at site projections, slate plan, and cores has helped me out. So he's kind of using a bunch of different things on the site as part of his process. You guys keep crushing it in MMA, NHL, and college football. So a couple of those sports we officially offer. College football we don't, but we have a Discord channel where our guy Smarty runs it, and man, that channel has been on fire. Everyone giving their input and helping each other out. Keep up the hard work and let's ship it. It's a very kind message on Thanksgiving Day weekend that we appreciate. So he will get the 333 ticket that we're giving.
Congrats to Drew. That's awesome. Appreciate it again. All the support. We'll get you set up with that today so you can be in that tournament for tomorrow. Mark said he wanted someone to win it, that hopefully they can win a big score for themselves and change their life. He's coming off $1 million score. He was on a mini heater himself too. Him and D-Dry were sort of back and forth, but D-Dry had the milli. Mark had to match him. So it can happen to anybody any given week. That's the fun in it. If you want to get involved, you can go to shipitnation.com. The pricing's up there. We do have a 6-month for even cheaper, an annual for even cheaper than that. You can get in to the mix, join the nation. But right now, if you want to go there, you want to just try it out for a month, you can use the Thanksgiving/Black Friday deal. Get Turkey20, the code. You'll get $20 off your first month. Hoop, anything else you wanted to say before we get out of here, man?
Yeah, just to piggyback what Title said. Yeah, very thankful for this community and the opportunity that it is provided for us and our families. You know, without the support from the YouTube channels, the members, and people that just support us in general, we wouldn't be able to do this. And this is a true blessing to be able to come on here and talk about sports every single day and do this as a profession. And without the support from our community, not only our members, like the YouTube community and everyone else out there, wouldn't be possible. So yeah, thanks to everyone out there. We really appreciate all your support.
Yes, for sure. Wish everybody a happy early Thanksgiving, all my American friends. I like to celebrate it with you. I know I'm Canadian, but I'm going to be doing the same tradition without the turkey this time. I thought about it, didn't get to it for this year, but going to be watching the games. We'll be around in the Discord, enjoying it with everybody. Thank you guys so much for watching. Smash the like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel. Be back with more shows. Got our NBA show tonight on our channel. We're going to have a Black Friday show on Friday morning. So check us out there. For Title, for Hoop, for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.